Hello, my name is Steve Plymire, President of Cincinnati Precision Instruments, a company dedicated to calibrating to a higher standard for the past 50 years. CPI sells, services, and calibrates a broad range of precision gauges to a variety of manufacturers throughout North America. CPI developed the Indi-Check, a universal calibration system for all your digital, dial, test indicators, bore gauges, and electronic probes. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate in a detailed way the Indi-Check, its features and benefits, so that you can make an intelligent buying decision. The Indi-Check is unique to the market because it is a calibration device that was designed by calibration technicians for calibration technicians. We as a calibration company needed to find a solution. As we looked for an efficient and more accurate way to calibrate a wide range of indicator styles and brands, we soon realized that those calibration systems were very good at calibrating certain brands or certain style indicators, but not all brands. Also, many devices simply were not accurate enough to calibrate to a 10-to-1 ratio or even a 4-to-1 accuracy ratio. With this dilemma, we set out to design and build the first Indi-Check over 17 years ago. At first, we used it simply as a device for our own use and learned to rely on the Indi-Check to assist in calibrating our customers' gauges. However, we consistently heard from customers who saw its performance and could see its many benefits and insisted we make them their own Indi-Check. We simply could not ignore what the market needed, and that is a fast, accurate, and versatile device. Let's take a look at its features and benefits. These are the components of the Indi-Check. The first component is the readout. And as you will see here, our readout is an inch in metric. The resolution as shown is 10 millionths, although it is switchable to 5 millionths, as well as a tenth of a micron in metric. The other feature on the Indi-Check is the 0 button that'll zero out the readout any place in its range. One final note on the readout is that it does have an RS-232 output. And next we have the Indi-Check base and upright, where we will mount our indicating devices. Here we have the 1-inch digital mic head, and now we have the bore gauge adapters for the standard style bore gauges for sizes 0 through 6. In addition, we have our adapters for various test indicators, such as a back plunger or button style indicator, a side mount, post mount, and dovetail mount, and finally the touchpad. And now we're going to go ahead and calibrate a metric dial indicator. You simply put the indicator into the Indi-Check. You don't need a mount at this point. You're going to slide it over till you get to the point of where you're going to have enough travel on the mic head to calibrate the entire range of the indicator. When you get to that point, you simply remove the indicator, you lock down the upright, which is this fixture right here, and now you're going to mount the indicator. You lock it down finger tight. As you can see, there's some pre-travel on the indicator. You're going to account for that. You're going to zero out your dial indicator, zero out your Indi-Check, and you're ready to calibrate. It's that simple. And you can just compare your reading to the reading of the Indi-Check, and this is basically what you would either write down, which is what you might traditionally do, or this Indi-Check has an RS-232 output that will allow you to put it to a computer. And then you'll just go through your checkpoints, and again, depending on what those are, you'll stop and verify your reading on the readout. And it is that quick, that simple, no stacking up gauge blocks. As I'm rotating the mic head, it's got great feel to the gauge, so I can tell if there's any defects in the rack system that's on this indicator, as well as the pinion gear that holds the hand. So again, it's a very simple, fast way of measuring dial indicators. If your indicators should have the 8mm stem, we do include an 8mm bushing that will simply fit over your stem of your indicator, and then you can place it into the Indi-Check. The digital indicators are essentially the same as the dial indicator that we just demonstrated. Again, you're going to simply put the indicator into the upright, and you will bring the gauge to the mic head, tighten down the upright, and actually I got it a little bit looser this time. So you've got the gauge going in. Now this particular digital indicator has got an inch range, so you need to make sure again that you have the full inch of travel to be able to calibrate your indicator. And you'll put a little bit of pre-travel on it and zero out the digital indicator, zero out your readout, and again, just like we demonstrated with the dial, you can calibrate your digital indicators. Okay, we're going to calibrate a test indicator with a dovetail attachment. We're going to use this attachment right here, which has the dovetail on this end. We simply mount it into the fixture. We're going to lock it down, and the indicator will be mounted in this orientation. So we'll just slide the indicator into the fixture, and we'll hold the indicator in place, and so that is how we've got it mounted. For all test indicating devices, we use this touchpad, and what this allows us to do is to calibrate a test indicator in both directions without ever removing the device. This saves us a lot of time and makes your calibration much more efficient. So we're simply going to line our indicator up, and we're going to slowly bring it down into the gap between the touchpad and the contact point. So as you can see now, we have a contact point between the touchpad, and now we're ready to calibrate. One more final step we need to look at. In this orientation, it would be very difficult to calibrate the indicator. We could turn it in this orientation, and obviously we can see a little bit better. However, the Indi-Check is not exactly at the right level or height for the operator. So the Indi-Check has a unique function where we can actually drop down a foot pedal to raise the sight angle. We simply tighten up the screw, and now we have the Indi-Check in the right orientation where you're not leaning over when checking the indicator. And so at this point in time, we're ready to do our calibration on our test indicator. Okay, let's set our 0 point on the test indicator. We'll go ahead and zero out the Indi-Check as well. Just like we did with the dial indicator, you're going to go to a different checkpoint, whether it's on a number or whether it's a certain point on the revolution. You're just going to go through the same procedure we showed you with the dial indicators. You can see how simple it is, how quick it is, and imagine yourself if you had this connected to a computer with a foot switch, you'd be able to record the measurements right when you get to the checkpoint, and it's obviously a very efficient and accurate way of measuring. Now, as we had mentioned earlier, because of the way we have this set up with the Indi-Check and its unique touchpad on the spindle, we now do not have to remove the indicator to check the back side of the indicator. So we just calibrated the front side, and now we're going to pull back and check the back side of the indicator. We do not remove anything. We simply leave the indicator as it is. We're pulling back on the mic head. Okay, now I'm zeroed out. And now even though it looks like I'm checking the same thing, I'm not. I'm actually checking in reverse. So you see I did the forward calibration, and now I'm doing the backward calibration. So you can check it in both directions on the test indicator without ever removing the indicator. At this point in time, we're going to move this indicator from the Indi-Check simply by loosening the back knob to raise the mechanism. Then we'll loosen this knob here and remove the indicator. If you have another indicator similar to this style, then you can simply slide it right back into position and calibrate another indicator. If you have another type of indicator, in this case like an inter-rapid style with a post, you can actually use the same kind of attachment. There's a mount for the indicator right here at the top, and you can lock it down and make sure that your test indicator is lined up. In this case, with the inter-rapid, there are some special circumstances you need to consider. For instance, having the indicator at a 12-degree angle. The same process applies. You're going to mount the indicator to the Indi-Check, and the calibration procedure is essentially the same. Depending on what your procedure calls for, you can either start calibrating on the front side of the indicator or the back side. You simply zero it out. You'll go right through the same process of doing your various checks, and that is how fast it is to change over from one indicator to the next. We are now finishing up measuring our inter-rapid indicator. We have calibrated both forward and backward. Now it's rather simple to change out the Indi-Check fixtures. Essentially, we'll move this up out of the way. Now we don't have any more of these particular test indicators with the dovetail or this small post, but there are other fixtures available to check various types of test indicators. So if you have other post holders that are fairly large, like this particular model, all you do is pull out the fixture, which is what I just did. I pulled this one out, and they all orient the same way, so you can't install them upside down or anything like that. So you're going to put in this particular fixture, and now you're going to bring this up through the post hole and mount it similar to what we did with the inter-rapid. Now you're going to move the indicator back down in the calibration position. Alright, other types of fixtures we have is the side mount for test indicators like this particular stair at 7-Eleven, which if you have these, you know they're kind of difficult to calibrate. So you're simply going to mount it in on the side mount. You'll, just like with all the other test indicators, you will basically put it between the touchpad and the spindle, and once again check it in both directions as you mount it here. Okay, and finally, when we look at test indicators, there is one other style that we need to consider, and it's called a back plunger type, which is a style like this one, where you've got the plunger in the back of the indicator. So we cannot use this upright fixture. We have another fixture that we use for these style indicators. So what we'll do is we'll simply remove the upright and take it completely off the Indi-Check fixture, like this, and we will now put what we will call the back plunger fixture on the Indi-Check in the place where the upright was. And that's just a simple process of taking out the set screw and lifting up the upright, and then placing the indicator into the fixture. And actually what we'll do is we'll loosen this up just a little. We'll get it close to the, we'll keep it loose until we get it ready to, and we'll bring it up there, and then we'll tighten it down. So we will put this on there, we'll tighten that down. Now obviously in this orientation you can't see the indicator, so we will go ahead and reverse our setting. And then we've got that locked down, and then we can go ahead and we'll zero this out, and we'll zero this Indi-Check out, and we're ready to do our calibration. Alright, now we're going to show how to calibrate a 2-point bore gauge. In this example, we have what we would call a standard style gauge, and many people will say that they only typically calibrate just the indicator, but the reality is on a bore gauge you need to check the linear accuracy of the gauge, which means you need to calibrate in its complete state. Now, as with all 2-point bore gauges, you have extensions, of which we have several that will work with many different sizes. This is classified as a number 5 standard style gauge, and so because of the popularity of this bore gauge, we have created several extensions. If you have different brands or different styles, different extensions will need to be made to fit into the Indi-Check. So for this instance, you simply remove the test indicator fixtures that you saw in here earlier, and now you're going to place the bore gauge into the Indi-Check, and you're going to go ahead and set it in there and get it ready for calibration. So we just kind of slide that in on the extension, make sure you're straight up and down, lock it into place, and we are going to bring the bore gauge up to the mic head and put it in place. So we're going to basically bring the gauge up to the point of contact or close to it. Again, we can move the mic head slightly as well, so we don't want to slam it up against it. simply going to tighten down this back set screw. We've now got the bore gauge in the right orientation. So we're going to go ahead and get it set up for calibration. But this is really how simple it is to calibrate a bore gauge. As we had shown earlier with the adapter, the test indicator adapter, it can also be used for electronic amplifiers. In this case, we have an electronic amplifier with that's a lever type, and so we would simply install it as we would the test indicators, and we'll mount it into the fixture, tighten it down, and then we'll be able to actually calibrate it in the same manner as we did the test indicators. Amplifiers also come with cartridge probes, and of course the Indi-Check can calibrate those as well. Those are simply installed very similar to the use of when we did the dial and digital indicators. We'll just bring the probe in, lock it into place, and go ahead and follow your normal calibration procedures for your amplifier. As we mentioned earlier, the Indi-Check has RS-232 capability. So when you're calibrating your indicator, if you have it hooked up to your computer, it's simply a tap of a switch to enter the reading. So at this point we're going to enter our 0, which if you look on the screen, that's where we are. And again, this will work in any calibration software that accepts digital inputs. So it's just simply a matter of going to your different checkpoints. When you get to those checkpoints, go ahead and take a reading. And it's just as simple as that. The Indi-Check will be a great addition to your calibration equipment and should last many years with little maintenance. In addition, CPI will offer a 1-year parts and labor warranty. The Indi-Check is extremely fast compared to a traditional way of calibrating indicators by utilizing gauge blocks. Watch how quickly the Indi-Check calibrates your indicator while complying with proper ANSI calibration requirements. The Indi-Check is simply the most accurate calibration system on the market, with a 15 millionths accuracy over full intertravel, and a selectable resolution of down to 5 millionths or a tenth of a micron. It can calibrate those indicators that have an accuracy of a tenth or better and meet at least a 4-to-1 accuracy ratio that is proper for calibrating indicators. Most shop floors have a variety of brands and styles of indicators which need to be calibrated, but many competitors simply calibrate their brand best but leave others out when it comes to fixtures. As you have seen demonstrated, we have come up with fixtures for just about every gauge used in manufacturing today. This gives the Indi-Check the most versatility and the biggest value for your dollar. It is our goal to show you how the Indi-Check is simply the best calibration system on the market today. It is fast, accurate, and versatile, and it will be one of the most productive pieces of equipment you own for calibration. They're available for immediate delivery and include a long-form A2LA accredited certification. Please contact CPI through our phone number at 1-800-686-3730 or by email at sales@cpi1stop.com for more information on how you can purchase your Indi-Check. Thank you for watching. We look forward to working with you to make your calibration a more cost-effective solution for your quality program.